Hi, Eleanor. Can you hear me?
I can.
Yeah, good afternoon. Yeah, I was actually expecting you and one more person. That's why this session started 15 minutes ago. So I needed to slow down the pace so that I believe most of you can catch up with the theory before I go into the live demo. So welcome and thank you for joining this section. Okay, so I'm going to do a quick recap so you can quite understand what the session is all about. Firstly, can you see my slide?
I can.
Okay, perfectly. So basically, what we are going to talk about today, just like it's shown in the slide. First, let me introduce myself to you. I did that earlier, so just as a recap, my name is Kelvin Edet Udoh. I'm a STEM ambassador. So today I hosted a session called Applied AI in Practice, which is building real-world EdTech system. So I don't need people to be scared. This is not a machine learning lecture. It is just a practical look at how I applied AI embedded into real system that schools and learning programs rely on. So it's not much of a machine learning. So, but firstly, I'm going to go into the demo. So I needed to do a few theory because I was quite expecting students, just like I said earlier, so they can understand it before I go into the live demo, because I wouldn't want them to be confused a bit. Okay, so before we begin, there will be a short survey in the chat, and that will help me to understand your background, whether you are more technical, educational, or business focused. I can actually tailor part of the session accordingly, and it will help me prepare more during my next event. I really appreciate if you can have that time to fill out the survey for me. Okay, so let's begin now officially. So why this talk? This talk basically sits at the intersection of technology, if you're looking at the slide, AI, and real-world implementation. Um, Basically, if you're a student, just like I was expecting, I needed you to see how applied AI actually built beyond tutorials, isolated code examples. So, but if you're a practitioner, program lead, you will see why this system matters operationally, not just technically. So everything I'm going to show you today will comes from building a real-world platform called STEMTrack. So I'm going to do a quick demo so you can see how it's going to help in your program if you're actually a program lead. So that is why this talk is all about. So first, we should move to the third slide. What we are going to cover for today. I did share a few of these slides out there on my LinkedIn post, so people should know what the talk is going to be all about and what we are going to cover. So just like a head up, it's a 2-hour section. We already lost over 15 minutes out there. So I believe we can catch up with time because the demo will take a couple of minutes. So I needed people to quite understand the theory very well before I go into the demo. So we will start with real world problem that school faces and why existing tools tend to break as scales. Then we will introduce STEMTrack as a learning operating system and how where AI actually fits within that structure. So after then, we are going to walk through live demo, like I said, break down how you can build something like this yourself in future. If you're a student, it will actually help a lot. At the end of the section, I'll be open to question and answer. Whichever question you have, I will do my best to answer it to your satisfaction to see that you actually get much information needed in the section that will actually help you in your life if you're a student. If you're a program lead, you can tend to decide if you're going to use STEMTrack or use other platforms that can offer such services to you. So moving forward to the race slide now. So this is the third slide, and the question out there is the invisible valley leak. So let me start with that I've seen repeatedly during my time teaching as a STEM instructor. One of my colleagues is here, his name is Mike. He also do some STEM. He's also a STEM instructor. I believe he sees some of this situation. So at the end of every learning section, when the parents come to pick their child, I notice a couple of things. They will actually ask a question: did my child enjoy this section? What exactly are they improving at? The instructor actually is expected to respond with a positive feedback, which we commonly do. It's a common feedback I see out there. They all respond with. And the child did well today. There was a few challenges, but overall they performed well. So common things I see they do. But however, there is no consistent record, no progress trade, and no structure summary. So which means the value is real, but is invisible. When the value is invisible, I believe those schools will face challenges like renewal will become harder, referrals will slow down, continuity disappears when staff change. So these are the quite challenges I see during my time. So this then motivated me to say, no, this is a problem. I believe with my knowledge in applied AI, I should be able to develop something that can actually solve this problem. Now, this is becoming a business risk. Why I feel this problem is a huge business risk out there, especially for program leaders. This is not just inconvenient, it's actually risky. When a STEM club can't clearly show learning progress, I feel because the parents come ask this question, they can't really show learning progress to them. Definitely, their renewal will hesitate and their pricing will become harder to justify. Referrals, like I say, will slow down. Even when staff members leave, the history will actually live with them. They have to start doing fresh induction for new staff, giving them everything which they feel. They verbally know, which is not meant to be like that. Because I noticed the issue is not the teaching quality. That's what I actually noticed. It's the ability for them to demonstrate impact consistently to these parents. Now, for instance, for a STEM club to succeed in today's education environment, I believe learning must be visible to be trusted. So this become a huge business risk, which I feel out there for most of them. So next, I feel this is a big business risk because I notice most of them currently try to solve most of these problems. So that is why I created this slide a bit, current tools phase, because they try to solve most of these problems using spreadsheet, just like it's shown in this slide, using WhatsApp photos, using PDF. These are common things they use, even in the organization where I work with as a STEM club, STEM ambassador, sorry, as a STEM instructor. They actually use most of these tools, mostly a lot WhatsApp. So, but I believe these tools are actually useful, but they rely heavily on individual habits and memory. That makes them inconsistent, difficult to audit, impossible to them to automate reliable. And over time, I believe this will create operational risks to them. So when I mean just like no shared standard, no repeatable progress, no tenable history, and when then they appear to be a reporting problem, is usually a system architecture problem underneath. At this point, I know most of you are probably thinking, probably like I was expecting. So what does a good system actually look like? Because I know most of them will be thinking, okay, why is it talking about these systems like WhatsApp? Most of them fail. So what does a good system actually look like? So this me to say, okay, let me introduce something called STEMTrack. But before I do that, I still going to make some full clarification for us to actually understand why this system they're actually not good. I'm going to justify my claim. First, before I answer that, let's look at this slide. It's called Breach Insight. It breaches the business problem and the technical reality. When data is actually unstructured, so most of them that are students, they are quite understand if your data is unstructured, is inconsistent, depending on individual staff habits, stop being merely inefficient, and it becomes risky. Yeah, because I can say fully it becomes risky. It can't automate reliably. You can't actually analyze consistently, and any AI layer on top becomes unreliable. Before I move on further, I don't know if I'm moving too fast. You can actually let me know. Which can't really, like I said, it confirmed again that what looked like a reporting issue surface on the surface is usually a data architectural issue underneath. So which I'm very sorry if I'm not moving too fast. To answer that particular question, what does a good system actually look like? This is where STEMTrack comes in. STEMTrack is not a note-taking tool. It's a learning operating system, just like I reframed that earlier. It's designed to answer four core questions every time. The question that actually determine whether learning is working, not occasionally, not manually, and not differently depending on who ran the section. Once those questions are answered systematically, trust becomes repeatable. Have a new, okay. Hi, Emma.
Hi.
Welcome.
Thank you. Sorry I was late. I had another meeting
Yes,
that
it's
overran.
quite understandable. It's okay. Though I've covered a few more slides, but for time, I will just do a 5 minutes recap for you so you can understand where you are at the moment. So firstly, the most important, at least I share this out there. Let's look at our first slide. I'm just going to do a quick 5 minutes recap for you.
Bless you. Thank you.
So my name is Kelvin Edet, Udoh, which you actually know there. So today's session is called Applied AI in Practice, Building Real-World EdTech System. So just like I said earlier, this is not a machine learning. It's actually a practical look at how AI is embedded into real system that schools and learning programs rely on these days. So later I move on to the next slide, why this talk. This talk sits at the intersection of technology, AI, and real-world implementation. So basically, I was actually expecting more students to come in because they will see how applied AI actually build beyond tutorials and isolated code examples, which is out there. So, but also if you are like a practitioner or program lead, you actually see why this system matters operationally, not just technically. Everything I'm going to show today, just like I did, I've actually shown a couple of them to my friend Michael. I actually come from building a platform called STEMTrack. So we are going to go into that later because we'll do some demos. So to see how actually we applied AI into it. So for third, I'm going to move to the next slide quickly. What we are going to cover for this section, just like I said before, we start with the real world problem that school faces. Then we exist to existing tools that tend to break as scales. Later, I'm going to introduce STEMTrack as a learning operating system. See where AI actually fits within that structure. After then, we'll walk through a live demo. We'll break down how you could build something like this yourself if you're actually a student. If I'm too fast, Emma, please do let me know, okay? I'm just trying to wrap up with the time. Okay, just like the third slide, because this is the core question we are going to try to understand today, the invisible value leak, because this is the question we are going to deal with today and to understand why this matters a lot and why, especially if you're a program lead, what you are facing. I believe a lot of them experience this. how it's going to help. So let's start from a quick scenario that I've actually experienced during my time teaching as a STEM instructor. At the end of every section, when the parents actually comes to pick their kid, they actually ask one common question every time, which the instructors will get to give feedback. So I quite noticed that they will ask questions like, did my child enjoy the section today? What exactly are they improving at? And as usual, the instructors will respond with positive feedback, such as the child did well today, and there were a few challenges here, but overall they performed well. But however, there's no consistent record, no progress tree, no structured summary. So this is why I said the value is real, but it's invisible. When value become invisible, those schools, they tend to face problems like renewal become harder, referrals slow down, continuity disappear, and eventually even when staff leave. So, but this is actually a business risk, and I'm going to prove why this is actually a business risk to them. Because this is not just inconvenience, it's actually a risk. When a STEM club or some educational school out there can't clearly show learning progress to the parents, like I said, they will tend to face things like renewal, hesitation, even when they tend to make prices become harder for them to justify for the parents. And definitely referrals will slow down. And most of all, when staff members leave, those history those staff have live with them entirely. So, but I feel this is not actually an issue with the teaching quality. It's the ability for those club centers to demonstrate impact consistently. So let's say for a STEM club to succeed in today's education environment, I believe learning must be visible to be trusted. Most of those STEM clubs or education center out there, they try to solve most of these problems, like I said. So they use tools like, if you see out in my slide here, which is very common, WhatsApp, spreadsheet, PDF. Sometimes they use verbal updates, just like when the parents come, like I make an example before, the instructors will just give them some verbal response. So, but actually, most of these tools are useful. They're actually useful, but they really heavily rely on individual habits and memory. Actually, that makes them inconsistent. To me, I feel that makes them inconsistent. They will be difficult to audit and impossible to actually automate reliably. And even over time, this create operational risk to them. Like there will be no shared standard, no repeatable process, no dependable history. What then appeared to be like a reporting problem is actually even a system architecture problem underneath, which they are facing. But at this point, I know most of you probably thinking, just like I asked the question before, if all these tools are not actually working, so what then is a very good system actually look like? As in, what does a good system actually look like? So I'm going to actually justify most of those thinking if actually some of you are having that. So first, to justify that, I'm going to ask us, so let's look at this slide, the breach insight. So, but before I answer that question, I'm going to look at like breaches the business. So when data is actually unstructured, if you look at the slide, inconsistency, depending on individual staff heartbeat, it becomes mainly inefficient and it becomes risky. Actually, you can't actually automate reliably. You can't analyze consistently. Even any AI layer on top becomes unreliable because those data are actually unstructured. Those data you receive in those tools. So no AI we analyze anything out there because they're actually unstructured, which confirm again what actually look like a reporting issue they are actually facing on the surface. It's usually a data architecture issue underneath, which I believe they are facing out there. So, but first, I'm going to answer that question I said earlier. Most of you might be thinking, what then is a good tools? So to answer that question, what does a good system actually look like? This is where I'm going to introduce STEMTrack. I'm going to introduce STEMTrack. STEMTrack is not actually note-taking tools. It's a learning operating system. It's designed to answer 4 core questions every time, like questions that actually determine whether learning is working. So things like not occasionally, not manually, and not definitely depending on who ran the session that day. But once those questions are actually answered systematically, I believe you build that trust with the parents. And if you build that trust with the parents, most of those risks you face out there, you won't face it again. First, let's imagine I created this slide before I go deep into STEMTrack to explain something out there. Let's just imagine a world where machines can diagnose disease, personalize your shopping experience, even drive you to work. I believe there are most machines out there. But actually, this world in reality come through the implementation of applied AI. So that is why I tag the title of this event, Applied AI. So they actually come true. But most students, just like I was expecting, I'm going to do the recording out there, they will be asking that question is actually out there. What exactly is applied AI? I actually hear that question a lot. What is applied AI? So in simple definition, I can tell you, applied AI is the use of artificial intelligence to solve specific real-world problems and deliver tangible results. Not experiment, not demos, but outcome. This is things I believe the parents want to see. And this is where common misconception appear. Most technical guys or most students out there, they believe that they expect AI to do the heavy lifting, which I actually disagree. But most of the work in building a successful product, just like mine, the one I built, STEMTrack, happens definitely before the AI comes in. Because in designing the system, the AI actually operates within. So that's when AI comes in. For example, if your inputs are chaotic, definitely your output will become unreliable. So, but when data is structured, that's why I did this slide out there. When data is structured, consistent, and intentional, AI becomes genuinely useful. And if you can see, it says data first, AI section, AI second. So, but if I'm moving too fast, please, you can actually give me a heads up to let me know to slow down, because I'm actually trying to be a bit fast so before I go into the demo section, because that will actually take some time. So I needed you guys to understand this theory a bit better. So once I go into the demo, it's quite easy for people to understand out there.
Kelvin.
Okay, so this slide, let's notice where AI sits. If you look at this slide, you notice where the AI actually sits in the system. It doesn't actually replace teaching or program lead. Instead, it supports summarization, section summarization, consistencies, report drafting, which are the repetitive part of the workflow that usually becomes time consuming. And this point is important. AI is not the workflow. It does not make decisions. So because people are scared that AI is taking all over our system. No, it doesn't actually make decisions. The decisions still rely on the human to make. So I want that misconception. I want people to actually get that understanding. So AI just relieve those workload for you. Yeah, like it summarize the sections for you. Release a lot of workload that rely on human, but human get to make the decision. So now, this is actually the workflow I actually build with my system. I actually follow this workflow when building my system STEMTrack. Now, if you look at this diagram, you actually see AI actually operates, how AI operates inside STEMTrack. I'm going to walk you through from left to right, so we understand what this workflow actually means. First, if you look at the diagram, you see the structure capture real-world activities. So things like note, photos, attendance, these are actually captured during section when the section happens. And those information are then stored in the system in a structured way. Those information, when they are captured, they are stored in a structured way. Structured way, when I mean by club, by section, by student, by evidence type. This actually being something you do on your database. And during the live demo, you get to see how they are actually stored. When I mean by section, by student, you get to understand it. But before anything happens, the data is validated. And only after that does AI step in. When the data is then clean, AI do the things you know best with. Draft summary, suggest key tag, and importantly, every AI output goes through human review, just like I said before. Human get to review it, approve it before anything is shared from the system. Okay, let's say for example, let's say, for example, the business owner or like an admin comes to the center. Let's say they want to view what is actually going on in this center. He logs into the system, which is STEMTrack, and say, okay, I want to see what the instructor delivered today. I would like to see how the system is, the center is actually going. Things are going right. So when you log in, you look at the section, just the way I build STEMTrack. AI is already, once those instructors, pictures capture those evidence that is out there, the AI, the data will become clean firstly. Then the AI will use those clean data to give informed decision. So like the admin login, it can actually see those informed decision, like the club did well today, this is the challenge you face. I feel this child, maybe because it's a special child like autism, it needs to be improved this way, or maybe the tutor is not. So most of these things, AI do most of use those data, those instructor takes to give informed decision. So whoever is like the admin or club comes in, see it. So STEMTrack use that same ideology to build around it. So making it like easier for the admin to make decisions. Okay, this instructor, I think you need more training. No, I think I need to change management. They can actually make the decision themselves. So AI doesn't actually make the decision. So that's what I mean out there. Okay, so I'm going to move because we're actually close to the demo. We actually have we actually have 40 minutes left. Now, looking at this slide, you see there's a structured information out there stored by things like by club, like I said before, by section, those datas, by student, and actually by evidence, where the instructors will take. So every piece of evidence is actually relational, contextual, and their timestamp, which are actually something done in the backend in the database. So that context is what makes analytic reliable, AI summarize accuracy. That is why risk systems don't start with database. I feel so. Rather, they should start with the data model because that's actually the core place where the AI can actually give good informed decision. If the data model is good, the data structure are reliable, so they are well structured. I believe AI should be able to do its job, give a very good informed decision, summarize the section accuracy. Then whoever comes in like the admin can use it to make a good decision. So, like I said, let me explain how the session actually moves, the workflow and control. Now, this slide shows what that structure, I was actually talking about structured data, what it actually look like in practice, under the which section. So those workflow exist to protect data quality, not to add friction. So first, every section moves from a clear state to planned state, like open, the session is open, then it becomes closed. So everyone knows that when what comes and cannot be changed at each stage. So just like a clean, let's say like looking at this transition, this clean state transits every inconsistent, let's say edit and preserve trust in the data. like permission and validation. If you're looking at the slide there, before the session is being planned, there's actually a permission flow validation that makes sure that the right people can take the right action at the right time, no more, no less. And this point really matters a lot. Let's say once a session is closed, after the session has been planned open, and once that session is actually closed, that data becomes stable. Those data that the instructor captured become stable, and that stability is essential for reporting, just like I said, reporting for analytics, for trust, give good insight there so that the woman can make good decisions. So that's why I built this section workflow. So lastly, I think we're almost done with the theoretical because I think the talking is becoming too broad. Most people want to see the live action, how this actually built. First, before I go into that, I would like us to look at this section. It's actually show the rebuild order because I want us to understand the theoretical part of it. So when you look at the demo, it will be very clear and understandable how it's being built. So often this part, like I said, something that I believe most students will take, will actually make it to be useful for them. And most of the reason, that's why I decided to record this section. So I'll put it out there. And I believe this slide is something that will be more interested for them to look at. So I'm going to walk through it slowly so that you can quite understand, and whoever out there, when they see the record, they can actually understand it perfectly. First, you start with a clean CRUD operation. First, that's what you actually start with. Looking at the slide. When I mean CRUD operation first, before anything else, the system has to reliably create, read, update, and close the data. So next, you build an evidence pipeline. What structure and metadata? These are something you do at your backend. So I believe it's more of SQL, but the videos will actually break that down. So when you look at the demo. So that's what turns real activities into useful, meaningful, and reusable insight. Then you add permission and validation. So you have to do this once you build that CRUD first and the evidence pipeline. So you have permission so that people that don't have permission cannot actually go in. This is where the data is actually protected and make sure that the right people can do the right thing at the right time. So next, only once that data is consistent do you introduce analytics. Dashboard don't create insight, just like I said. Good data does. And finally, you add AI. That's where the big guy comes in, AI. So its job there is just a transformation layer, not foundation. AI will help, like I said earlier, summarize, surface pattern, save time, but it actually depends entirely on everything before. That's if the data is well structured. That's when the AI will do its work very well. So next, we are about to, let's look, okay, we still have time. So let's cover this one last section before I show you a practical view of all I've been talking about. And I believe time will permit us to be able to look at the demo because it's quite long. It's something I take my time to do out there so that whoever look at it will be able to understand the concept I use in building this STEMTrack to solve the problem. So first, in previous slide, before this, I showed you real build order. So I talked about the CRUD first, then an evidence pipeline, then permission, analytics, and only then you can bring AI in. But this slide is going to show you what that actually look like when everything comes together in practice. So again, I'm not going to jump straight into futures. I'm just going to walk you through STEMTrack in the same order an organization actually experience value. So again, we are going to move from left to right so we quite understand what this slide is talking about. First, I'm going to start with the operational visibility. This comes directly from a clean CRUD operation, just like I said in other slide, and structured data. Okay, let's imagine an admin or club owner can clearly see STEM Club Center exists in that particular, because let's say they created a school. Let's say you build a system for them, just like STEMTrack. The admin will definitely have so many club centers. You can have one in London, you can have one in other locations. So once they actually log in, they should be able to see which club center exists in that particular platform. Then which section are actually planned there. They can see which one were open and which one was closed, without having to call the instructors or rely on memory or have to depend on the instructor to tell them anything. They have to see everything themselves. So those are the operational visibility. So then we move to the evidence capture. During a section, real activity is captured. During let's say a session, let me give an example like a robotic session. Real activity is captured as it happens. Activities like, let's say, attendance, take note of who attended the section today. The instructor can also take note if you notice something. They can take a brief note. Sometimes most of them have the right to take photos. They can take photos and actually do some bit of challenging that day. So like the club owner or the admin wouldn't know, the parents wouldn't know all this. So that is why STEM Club, this STEMTrack comes into place. Those evidence pipeline, those evidence that have been captured, we are going to talk about, like we talked about earlier, those structure, time stack, actually linked to specific club, like the specific section or specific student. Because just like I said, all those evidence pipeline will be stored, like I said in my previous slide, will be stored by the section, the student, that particular club, because only then that the data can actually become clean. All those data that the instructor capture, only then can it become clean, consistent. Then we can introduce AI. And this point is quite important. Like I say, AI does not sit at the front of the system. It sits on top of the data pipeline. And which make me to, before I move into the last slide, if you look at the slide, if you move into the last part of the slide, if you look underneath, you see something there. That's Azure AI Foundry. Azure AI Foundry. Azure AI Foundry actually comes in. So this actually, why I actually introduced Azure AI Foundry. It's something used to manage model setups and selection. Let's say that include choosing the right models, defining how it's used, constraining it so it operates only on validated and structured data. The first model that I applied in my system STEMTrack is called attendance AI. I'm actually going to show this in practical after this section so we can see how these models are being applied. So the first model I applied was attendance AI. Each role is actually to analyze participation patterns, like people that attended today, is the attendance consistent? Is there like any drop-off trend? Is the section engaging over time? No, it used the attendance that the instructor takes. It gives you a very good informed decision rather, sorry. So next, I move into, if you're looking at the slide, I move into creating what I call section AI model. So definitely this module actually focus on summarizing the learning context. So let's say like all those structured data, all those structured evidence that the instructor take, this module actually summarized it, give suggested skill tag. It gives like some kind of informed summary. So whoever is like the admin, whenever it comes in, he can use those summary from those sections to make informed decision. But still, we still depend on the instructor to capture those evidence. Then those models can actually train on them to actually give informed decisions. So that's why I pick Azure AI model. It's actually good. we are going to come into practical, then you see how that actually looks like in practical. After this section, I'm going to do a quick few video, then you see how I created the model. So for those that are students, I believe that will be quite useful for them. So lastly, we are going to move into the inspection ready tray. Okay, the inspection ready tray is actually the outcome, a defensible timestamp record of what actually happened. So like who attended, what was learned, and it generates consistent, not just manually, consistent results. So like, let's say, have you seen, like if you've seen the structure, let me show like how this look like in practice. Firstly, we are going to briefly look at Azure AI Foundry. Then we'll understand how the AI layer is actually set up. Then we'll see how the inspection ready tray looks like in real practice. Foundry. I'm going to move into the live demo of STEMTrack, an MVP I created. Then we can see how this comes together in real system. Okay, I think if time permits us, we are also going to look at live demo in terms of STEMTrack, because we are going to look two sides of it. First, we are going to look at the attendance AI model. There are a lot being created, so I could not do all in this event. Maybe if I do oncoming one, I can actually put that out there. So, but I just want to give us a good idea on how this actually works. So we'll look at the attender side of it, what the attender AI model actually do, how it works in real practice, in life, we can see that. Then we can actually see the section AI model, so how it actually capture the section to give informed decision. So, but if time permits us, because these are quite long learning program, I believe if time might permit us. So let's. Okay, I will be cutting the recording short here because the next slide, next section will be showing the live video, which takes a long time, and it's definitely something best one can watch during, if you attended the event. It's more easier that way, because showing a recording of that and bringing the video in here is quite difficult. So this is the reason why I encourage people to participate in the event. That way you'll be able to see those live video in real time, how I created the system, how all this model works, everything I talk about. However, I will be hosting my next event next month, March. I haven't fixed a date yet, though the next event will be more focus minded in terms of business, not much of tech. But I will still try my best to see how I can create or do a separate video of that demo. I believe also if you look through my YouTube, you might be able to see some of those live video which I also showed in the event, but unfortunately I can't really play it here because it's quite long and it will be difficult to pick it over here and show it to you guys. But I encourage you to look through my YouTube. You might be able to come across, because I'm sure I did put some of those live videos separately, posted it. You might be able to see it and have a look of it. I will keep you posted on my next event and I will give you more details. So thank you for watching this recording and I hope you enjoy it. Stay blessed.